Craig Rispin is a business futures and innovation expert, and his expertise in his emerging business, people and technology trends, and how companies can profit from them. So what specific ideas could you walk out of here with to gain a strategic advantage? Let's find out. Craig is happy to answer your questions. Please put your hands together for Craig Rispin from the Future Trends Group. Thank you, Craig.
So put your hands up if you've met a futurist before. Have you met? Who have you met? Oh, well, I'm one of many. Isn't that right, Shelley? It's true, you know, that our professional association, the World Future Society, has 25,000 members worldwide. And I remember when I was young, my mother would drive me up. I grew up in Southern California, drive up to UCLA, and they would have free lectures from visiting professors. And I remember she would take me as I was young, probably about 12, and there was this great management consultant. I was interested what a management consultant was at that point. And he opened his speech with a slide, and I went back into my archives to see if I could find it, and I did. And you probably know this management consultant, Dr. Peter Drucker. And his slide read, as we walked into the room, the temptation of business is to always feed yesterday and to starve tomorrow. Luckily, the theme of your conference and the intention that you have is not just to feed yesterday, is it? It's to look into the future. So I want to share some ideas from the futurist community and for what's happening globally. And many times when I give people my business card, they look at futurist on my business card and they think, oh, he really needs to get a real job. We have a professional body that is incredible. I like to call them my wacky friends because they're crazy, but they're also, members of the United Nations, running the census right now in Australia. We've graduated about 900 students in Australia. But I don't want to overblow what we do. I like to say that futurists are just reverse historians. What do historians study? The past. We study the future, and I love history. Do you have pay TV? Do you watch the History Channel? Do you like the History Channel? They have all sorts of great things. And when I went to school, I thought maybe I would study history, but I looked at the curriculum, and there was no future in it. But then I looked at the future studies curriculum, and what was the first course? History. Because we have a saying in our community that the history doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it often rhymes. And we're in a 40-year cycle in the IT world right now, and it's like we've come full circle. And I want to talk to you about that, because we've come back to the rise of the superpower. You know the superpower? In many businesses, it's the witch doctor. Who's the witch doctor? It's that IT professional. You don't know what they're talking about. When sometimes they're referred to their black art because they've got those black boxes. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe you'd like to join us if you'd like to get our latest publication, the Futurist magazine, WFS, World Future Society, WFS.org. You can download the July issue, past July issue, free of charge if you like to look. There's a very interesting article about the future of professional services globally. We produce all sorts of charts and graphs galore, hundreds and hundreds of them. They get peer-reviewed around universities. We get them audited by big companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers. And this chart is like that. Does that make you feel better it was audited by Price? No, I'm done. And these days, it's very trendy. We call them infographics, don't we? We call them infographics, but they're charts and graphs. And I thought I'd share this one with you to show you. This is the percentage share that the countries had of the global. What percentage share did they have of the global world trade, gross domestic product worldwide? And the chart goes from the year one, out to 2050. And across the top, we have China in red, and just below in orange, we have India. And if you can throw your eyes over to the year one, according to these researchers, these professors at university. They've been peer-reviewed. According to their research, India and China in the year one combined had how much of the world trade? Would you like to estimate? 80%? Yes, about 80%. And then things changed in the world, but here they are trying to race back. They're actually talking about getting back to the year one. They think long-term like that. Will they get back to 80%? And you'll see just here in this portion of the chart, in 2016, there's a sudden upturn in India versus China. China, steady growth, they're going to get more and more percentage. But all of a sudden, 2016, there's this boom. There's this boom. All of a sudden, India is racing ahead of China. And why do you think this is? Anybody have a guess why that might be? Oh, yeah. A one-child policy in China has really messed up their demographics. In 2016, the average age in China will be 41. In 2016, the average age in India will be 17. Which would you rather be? So will this impact what you're doing? Well, just think of what's happened the last 12 months with globalization and mergers between Australian law firms and Chinese law firms, American firms and Indian firms. It's happening in every industry, in every country that I visit, a massive globalization. So when you go to futurist school, you decide what 3 areas you're going to study. I studied business, people, and technology, and we're going to touch on each one of these, but specifically we're going to talk about technology because that's so important. You can see from the survey that you did how important it is to you, but we're also going to talk about how business models within your industry are emerging to replace the ones that may have grown out of date. So let's see what's happening. Let's drill down into this area. And I want to introduce you to my friend Carl Fish. We're going to talk about Carl Fish and how he talked to, recently, all the school teachers, all the curriculum managers, and all the vice chancellors, the school principals in both the state schools and the private schools. And he talked to them about how technology was accelerating. I'm going to play a video for you in a minute. He's given me permission to share it with you. You've probably seen his videos. This educational futurist toured all around Australia, and teachers were asking him all sorts of questions, and he said, maybe I can make the conversation shorter by showing you a moving infographic, a video. You may have seen the video before. Quite famous. It's been viewed 500 million times on YouTube. Have you seen Did You Know Shift Happens? Hands up if you've seen this video. This is the latest one, just 4.0. It came about 11 months ago. I'm going to ask you to do a little activity. I'm going to play the video. It's 2 minutes long. At the end of the video, would you turn to the person next to you, your learning partner, and if you if you have an odd number here, you can be a triumvirate together if you like. Just be a triumvirate. And at the end of the video, would you ask each other, what was the most surprising thing that you saw in the video? What was the most surprising thing you saw in the video? You ready? Here comes the video. Did you know Shift Happens 4.0 from Carl Fish. Did you know, shift happens. Turn to your learning partner, ask them, what was the most surprising thing that they saw in the video? You have 45 seconds, your time begins now. You might have to move closer together, yeah. 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. So what did you think was most surprising? That more people have mobile phones and clean toilets? I've got some good news for you, some great news from you from the not-for-profit sector. David Basso, the founder of Opportunity International, gave me the statistic. He would know about it. He was Senior Australian of the Year a couple of years ago for forming Opportunity International, where they fund 7,000 startup entrepreneurs per week. Did you know they do that? And they charge them commercial rates for this. In this not-for-profit that makes a profit. Isn't that interesting? And they fund them by sending them mobile phones with prepaid credits on it, because in the developing world, they might not have access to banks. But their mobile phone becomes the bank. They can do trade with their mobile phone. And he said, Craig, many times when you talk, you shock people into knowing how technology is changing the world, and they're wondering whether it's a good thing or not. And I want you to deliver a message to them, telling them that globally, we've raised 400 million people out of poverty thanks to mobile phone technology. Isn't that amazing? Maybe you thought it was surprising that Corey Mencher's baby tweeted from the womb. I always have to explain that. How did that happen? You know, are they teaching touch typing? You know, before you're born now? No, but it's a first term of a kindergarten curriculum now. Keyboard skills are required in New South Wales, and they don't mean piano. Keyboard skills. Corey Mencher was a Googler. She had a high-risk pregnancy, and these days you don't stay in hospital because you might get an infection. So they send you home, your doctor sends you home, and you get this, stretchy band around your belly that monitors the baby, the fetal heart rate and how much activity and when it's kicking and rolling over. And Corey was a Googler, a girl geek, and she saw this flashing blue connection to a home gateway that connected through her Ethernet connection through out to her doctor, so her doctor could monitor her remotely, and if there was a problem, bring it to her attention and either send an ambulance or tell her to go to hospital. And she saw the flashing blue light, and she knew it was Bluetooth. And being a girl geek, she hacked the connection and connected it to a Twitter account. So every time the baby kicked, it said, I'm kicking, I'm rolling over, my heart rate's fine, everything's looking great today. And by the time the baby was born, it had over 1 million followers. Now, Corey's husband wasn't very technically, up on things, and in the delivery suite, they hooked an Android phone on a flexible arm with a big red button, so he could hit the one button that went out to the million followers. I have arrived. I have arrived. Now, I'm sure there were some surprising things in there other than those. Maybe that Kindle books outsell all of hardcover and softcover books worldwide. The number of emails that are viruses. But I'm here to tell you that this video is 11 months old, and many of the numbers are double, triple, quadruple, or 10 times the number that you saw there. Just in 11 months. So it reminds me of a time I was going back to Philadelphia to attend one of my professional networks. About 2,000 of us get together. It's 1998, and the Qantas flights are delayed. The super shuttle queues are long, and there are these tables, and I sneak into the back. Luckily, I wasn't presenting that day. I was just a delegate. I sneak into the back and sit down at one of these round tables that has a free space, and this gentleman extends his hand, and he says, "Hi there, my name is Jack Welch." And being that you guys know who Jack Welch is, He used to be CEO of this company, and he grew it quite significantly. From 1981, it was worth $13 billion, went up to $500 billion. And all I could think of, because I knew who he was saying to him when I replied, because I'm so smooth and sophisticated, I know it's you. And at this conference, we were meant to put on our delegates badge 3 words that inspired us. And I had put foresight, innovation, and leadership. And Jack looked at my badge and he said, look at my badge, Craig. Those are the 3 words that I chose. Foresight, innovation, and leadership. He said, we have to choose for the next hour and a half 3 topics for our table. And he turned to the rest of the other 8 people on the table. Well, how does that sound? Should we talk about foresight, innovation, and leadership? What do you think they said? We have an hour and a half with Jack Welch. Do you think they said, oh, let's talk about sports? Probably not. Now, Jack talks about all sorts of things, and he's doing a business model in management consulting you might look at. He's starting a new MBA school. It's the Jack Welch MBA school, and they take the world's best lecturers on business management, the world's best lecturers, and stick them on an online platform. So you do all your lectures online, but then you have a local coaching group in Sydney, for instance, with a mentor that helps you through the program. The cost of the Jack Welch MBA, 1/3 of the cost of a Harvard MBA. Now, if you're a parent and your child wants to go to MBA school, or you want to go to MBA school, what would you rather do, Harvard MBA or the Jack Welch MBA? Oh, maybe. Jack says lots of things about the future, but he says, this one's probably the most famous. If change is happening on the outside faster than on the inside, the end is in sight. And I was in this venue in one of the other theaters here in November with 500 of the CEO group said, the fastest growing companies in Australia. CEO network, right? And they're the fastest growing companies in Australia. And so I asked them this question after showing them the video, and I'll ask you the same question. I asked them, put your hands up if you think your customers might be moving slightly faster than you are. Do you agree with that? Would you put your hand up if you think your customers are moving slightly faster than you are? Put your hand up if you know you're moving faster than your customers. Put your hand up if you're too nervous to put your hand up. Yeah, that's most of you. But in this, they weren't. 499 hands went up saying, I think our customers are moving faster than we are. How are we going to keep up? And then I asked the question, if you're moving faster, would you put your hand up? And this lady in the front row put her hand up and said, well, we're moving faster. And I said, what company are you with? And she said, I'm the head of Google in Australia. I said, you're qualified. That they're talking about the innovations, and I think there are many companies, especially in the technology sector, that have got incredible innovations, but the culture of their customers aren't ready for it yet. They're moving faster than their customers. So let's drill down into some of these areas. Do you know the work of Richard Susskind, OBE? Have you read his books? Widely distributed. And he says that legal institutions and lawyers are poised to change more radically over the next 2 decades than they have in the last 2 centuries. The future of legal service will be neither Grisham nor Rumpole. Or maybe it's going to be a hybrid mashup of those 2. Well, maybe not. Instead, it will be a world of virtual courts, internet-based global legal businesses, online document production, commoditized service, legal process outsourcing, and web-based simulated practice. You guys are already doing all these things, right? I thought I'd just bring along a recent interview that he published. He gave me permission to share this with you here today, talking about when he first wanted to present to the Law Society in London back in 1996, and they laughed at him and said, we will not let you infect our members with your ideas. And then he was knighted. And now he gets invited all over the world to talk about his ideas. But in 1996, they were quite radical. Let's have a look at this.
Good evening, I'm Jim Zirin. You're watching The Digital Age. Lawyers have traditionally charged clients for their services in accordance with the time spent on a matter. Abraham Lincoln said, a lawyer's time is his stock in trade. Our guest tonight, Richard Susskind, has challenged this basic assumption. In a provocative, best-selling book entitled The End of Lawyers, ? Richard Susskind argues that information technology has fundamentally changed and will continue to change the way lawyers work and charge for their services. So here from London is Richard Susskind. We're delighted to have you with us.
Great to be here, Jim.
And welcome. Now, Richard, you are a Scots lawyer. You're an author, an independent advisor to major law firms, general counsel, and national governments. And you write a book entitled The End of Lawyers. What do you mean by all that?
I should stress it's the end of lawyers question mark. I'm asking the question in the digital age whether or not lawyers have a future or how the work of lawyers might change. And I think it was interesting to put a title into the market like The End of Lawyers because I needed to grab people's attention, and that it seems to have done.
What is the essential thesis of the book? What's your argument?
This is accelerated by the current economic conditions, is that lawyers need to find ways of reducing the costs of their services. Whether the clients are major multinational corporations or individuals, consumers, legal services are just costing too much, and we need to find ways of charging less and of working differently so the costs come down. So my major response is that we need to look at legal work and decompose it, deconstruct it, break it down into its constituent parts, and ask of each of these parts, what's the most efficient way of doing this work? Do we do this work differently? Traditionally, clients thought, do I do this work myself, or do I give it to lawyers to do? If you give it to lawyers and law firms, they did the whole lot. What I'm saying is you can actually break down legal work into different parts and source each part far more efficiently in the past, and this will mean radical reductions in the cost of legal services, which is what exactly the market requires.
Does your model apply to all work that lawyers do, or just some of it? I mean, if we were to deconstruct, as you have, services lawyers render, particularly in large law firms, you have document review and legal research, project management, litigation support, and on and on and on. Does your model of deconstruction and standardization of these services apply to everything across the board?
It certainly applies insofar as you can see so far to every broad area of legal practice. So if you look at, for example, the conduct of a big dispute or the conduct of a major transaction, we see elements in each of these that I believe can be done differently. Once you get down to a level like advocacy, for example, which I argue is one of 9 parts of the litigation advisory process, that itself perhaps can't be decomposed any further, and advocacy, it seems to me, particularly in the United States, is an essential job that is undertaken by lawyers. But
he goes on to talk about how a lot of what lawyers do looks like project management to him. Document flow, control, project management. And he says if you look at the IT industry, they're very, very, very sophisticated in their project management. In fact, there are 4 different operating project management skills, 4 different peak bodies with all these different ideas of how they're going to manage projects, agile project management and ITIL, and there are many, many IT professionals that are going along and getting these professional project management degrees. In fact, we had a recent conference in Singapore, and there are 15,000 members of this one IT project management group talking about how they could deliver better value for their customers for less money on an on-demand basis when they needed it. So maybe we can take some of the skills from the IT world, because certainly our customers are digital customers these days. Aren't you? I'm just looking out there at all these iDevices and the Samsung devices. You're all digital customers. I was doing some work in the fashion industry, fashion and beauty. We decided to do a survey of their customers, and this particular group of 18-year-old to 35-year-old women, and we asked the question to these 18 to 35-year-old women, what's the first thing you do in the morning, the last thing you do at night? This is Sally. What do you think she does? First thing in the morning, last thing at night? Checks in with her Facebook status, updates her Facebook status, at least touches her mobile phone. That's the first thing and the last thing that she does. And Sally is a business owner. You might know Sally. She's in Adelaide. She started a natural food company that's gone pretty well. It's got about $25 million turnover now, a very respected brand. And she's transformed herself in the way that she manages her team through technology and really shifted the way that her company engaged with it. And she's got this baby, and she's a new mom, and so we know that she's going to be using Facebook more than any other demographic in the world, especially here in Australia. New moms use Facebook how many hours a week? They're really busy people, so, new moms, first-time moms are really busy. How much do you think they use Facebook in a week? 21 hours a week. Yeah, all late-night feedings, and, you've got to check in with your friends and say, how you going with that, right? Well, her baby is switched on, and her baby loves this technology, and her baby is growing up with touchscreens. And to her baby, the iPad is an interactive magazine that you can pinch and zoom and swipe, and then she touches a magazine, and she doesn't know what to do with it. Have you seen her baby? This one works. This is an iPad. Watch the pinching technique. I wonder if that'll work in a magazine. It's broken. Mommy, fix it. Her baby is a digital native from birth. A vice president of Apple Computer said, never before in the history of our company, Apple Inc., I should say, they're not a computer company anymore, never before in the history of our company have we had customers from the age of 0 to 100 plus years old. The whole demographic range. And what about Sally's granny? She's got her first computer too, and she was a great writer. She loves to write limericks, but she has glaucoma. It's difficult for her to see. And getting this iPad in her 99th year of her life transformed her life. Do you know her granny?
All right, you got to see it tonight. A 99-year-old Lake Oswego woman who's found her passion for reading again, all thanks to the Apple iPad. For Virginia Campbell, battling glaucoma made it difficult for her to read or write, but now she is back at her favorite activities, all thanks to her new toy. KPTV's Chad Carter met with her today and joins us now with her story. Chad.
Shauna, for Virginia, getting back to the things she loves was important, and thanks to the bright text of the iPad, she's found a new life-changing device.
I think this is the start of a poem that I wrote once.
Writing has always been a part of Virginia Campbell's life.
Its glowingly trace on its magical face.
For the last century.
I'm only now 99 and a half, but I consider myself in my 100th year.
But with age,
to read this dictionary, I have to use the loop.
Have come a few new restrictions.
I have glaucoma, and I found recently that I wasn't even able to read large print library books.
And penning her passion became too hard to do.
I could write them all right, but I couldn't read what I wrote.
So that's when her family brought this centenarian into the 21st century with the Apple iPad.
Now I can read again. And it's just opened up the world.
And what about Sally's company? Well, just a couple of years ago, they still had the policy. They went to their IT manager and they said, block all social media. Don't let them get to Twitter. They can't go to LinkedIn. Block them at Facebook. And then all of a sudden they found that, their customers were trying to contact them that way. So they reversed their policy. And now Sally has a new policy. Does your organization have a social media policy? And she now requires all new recruits to her company to update their LinkedIn profile before they get their key card and get to check into their desk. And why does she get new employees during their induction process to update their LinkedIn profile? Because she told me a few years ago she was spending millions of dollars in recruiting fees, and now she spends under $50,000 a year in paying bonuses to employees who refer their friends through LinkedIn. Just saying. And Sally's tracking her fitness. She's on this fitness kick now, and she went to the Apple store where they have an entire section dedicated to fitness. This is your quantified self, where you can build an infographic of how you're doing in your healthcare. And you've got a blood pressure cuffs and number of steps, and they produce these beautiful infographics and the Nike Fuel Band, and they even have, this same company that makes this green cuff here, makes a Wi-Fi scale, so when you step in the scale in the morning, it actually tweets out to all your followers what your weight is and what your body fat. You don't have one of these? No. Do you know it's a multi-billion-dollar market? And think about it as a model for a future law firm. What if you could monitor your clients remotely and alert them to a problem before they even knew they had it? How powerful would that be? And we're right on the cusp of that, aren't we? We're right on the cusp of that. So digital customers like digital solutions, but they also like personal service too. This is why when Apple opened the Apple Store, they went extremely high touch. They were a high-tech company. They went extremely high touch. Maybe you're a high-touch firm and you need to go extremely high tech. Maybe you need to go high tech because John Nesbitt wrote this book in 1998, and he said in the future, technology is going to invade our lives so much that we will demand personal service. And there's a huge uptake in personalized face-to-face experiences. I'll just give you an aside. Recorded music sales, way down. Recorded music sales, concert music sales, going to an experience, up 3,500% in the last decade. An experience versus a document, right? So just turn to your neighbor and ask them, do you offer virtual law services in your firm? You just ask them, what kind of virtual law services do you offer in your firm? I'll give you 30 seconds to discuss that. What sort of, you might have to turn it around and share with this gentleman. Five, four, three, two, one. Hands up if you have virtual law services at your firm. Oh, that's good to see. That's good to see. Maybe it'll be a bit different in a year from now because it is booming internationally. And the center of the universe, at least in America, is Kimbrough. You just want to jot down, follow her blog. She actually runs the Virtual Law Center, a really interesting discussion of what's happening. And she lifts up all the firms that now have, in addition to their traditional services, they also have a tab that is very much a do-it-yourself. A computerized assisted document creation, imagine, as under a tab for a specific thing, conveyancing, negotiating of equity when you're selling your firm out. There's using game theory engine to figure out how much equity you should get when you get out of an IT firm. Rice Law, Focused Law. Unbundled legal services is another name for this. Are you unbundling your services? All sorts of examples going global. And then you have cross-firm collaborations. So this is a North Carolina divorce website, and these are it's a cross-firm consolidated, like an aggregator service. You know how when you go and book a hotel or an airline, you got all the airlines? Imagine you could do that for legal services, and it would have a list of all the lawyers in divorce in your area, even though they were from different firms. You guys are going to get right on this, right? Do you know they're talking about the amount of business that they're getting by collaborating together rather than trying to keep it in their own place? And of course, Law Pivot, which is crowdsourced legal advice, where you post your question and hundreds of people give you their input. So we're moving towards something that was written about 13 years ago in a book, and we're exactly in this world today. And I love reading books. Like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, remember that? Douglas Adams, and he talked about the Hitchhiker's Guide that would have this tablet-like device that would have a galactic encyclopedia on it. And just an aside here, did you know Steve Jobs was a huge fan of Douglas Adams and he really wanted to create the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? That actually looks a lot like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy I think you have in front of you. But 13 years ago, these futurists got together and they talked about the world that we would exist in today. And you can read it and you're like, how did they know this 13 years ago? And it starts the Clue Train Manifesto, which you can download the book, ebook version for free, made it in the public domain. A powerful global conversation has begun. Through the internet, people are discovering and inventing new ways to share relevant knowledge with blinding speed. As a direct result, people are getting smarter and getting smarter faster than most companies. give you an example of this in the healthcare area. Unfortunately, we had a pharmacy in New York that accidentally, through human error, replaced fluoride tablets that kids were taking at a regular basis, and they misplaced the pills for cancer treatment in the fluoride bottle, and so hundreds of kids were taking cancer treatment instead of fluoride. And if this happened to your kid, where's the first place you would go? Well, if you want to get it on the evening news, you'd go to Twitter. Because you know what they do on American TV now? They go, breaking news, this in from Twitter. This is an unconfirmed result. We don't have this confirmed yet, but it seems that if there's cancer drugs being given instead of fluoride. And as soon as you tweet that, you get thousands of people, millions of people retweeting it instantly. It seems like people are getting faster than most companies. So don't worry about it. They fixed the problem. They got rid of the human at the pharmacy at CVS, brought in robotic pill pickers that are 0.0001 errors out of 100,000. Yeah, the robots don't get it wrong. They know the weight of the pill, they know the shape of the pill, they know the color of the pill. They get it into the right packs that are sealed up and delivered to you. No more human error. Luckily, there won't be robots to replace lawyers anytime in the future. Or practice managers. We won't have any virtual practice managers, will we? No. Maybe if you have a medical condition, you don't just want to take advice from your doctor. Maybe you'd like to talk to other people. Patients like me, could be like clients like me in the law firm. You come and look for your condition, and there are thousands and thousands of people talking about the drugs that they're taking, the treatment that they're doing, all talking about it at patients like me. So this is all leading to new business models. New business models are emerging using this new technology. They're looking at other industries and bringing it to your industry, and it's pretty scary for some of us. And we have to decide, are we going to retire early, or are we going to have a go? So have a look at this. This is a company who decided to split their law firm in two because there's still rules in America around equity ownership. So it's one company called Clearspire, but one is business services, which they've created a cloud-based project management document control system, and all the business of the law firm goes through that firm, and all the advice and advocacy goes through the law firm, but they're all called the same thing, two divisions, Clearspire. And their pitch to clients are, because we're using state-of-the-art cloud-based technologies, and our lawyers don't need offices anymore because they can go to their local co-working center or they can work from home, you don't have to pay for that expensive real estate in Sydney. So just think about yourself as a customer right now, and you come to the Clearspire website. By the way, they're hiring hundreds of lawyers all across America now from the top-tier law firms and saying, you were never going to make managing partner. Would you like to join us? And you don't have to pay for the expensive real estate. Think about yourself as a potential customer. You stumble on this website and you see this video. What would your reaction be?
For nearly 100 years, the traditional law firm model has remained unchanged. But it's time for that model to be reinvented, to shift the focus from partner profit to client interest, and to allow talented lawyers to concentrate on practicing law. A better way has arrived. Clearspire has re-engineered the practice of law for the 21st century. Ever wonder about the basis for astronomical legal fees? Here's where we are today. A large percentage goes to partner profit. Another big part supports an opulent office environment that you probably won't ever visit. Well, imagine if you could select the senior lawyers from these prestigious law firms. Let them work from a highly sophisticated IT platform. Offer them a better work-life balance, all while cutting client fees by up to 50%. From the perspective of top lawyers, the traditional model means unreasonable billing quotas and immense pressure to generate business. It's no wonder that some of the best attorneys have quit practicing altogether. Many more are looking for a way out. For them and for their clients, there is a way out. Thought leaders in practice management and top strategists in enterprise IT are making this happen. It's called Clearspire. Clients work directly with top attorneys. A secure, web-enabled environment creates unmatched transparency and real-time access 24 hours a day. Revolutionary IT applications automate project management, reporting, document management, and cost tracking, eliminating invoice surprises. Clients and their attorneys have more control and are better served. And with all this added value, costs are substantially lower. Clearspire has truly re-engineered the practice of law for the 21st century. Top AmLaw 200 talent, liberated from supporting partner profit and office overhead, empowered with secure, leading-class technology, working collaboratively with clients at a level of value and service previously unimagined. This is Clearspire, law practice re-engineered.
Less than 2 years ago, there were 20 people. They got to 200 people in Washington, D.C., signing up, mostly IT firms who speak just like they do. They speak Geeklish. Can you translate? So Cisco is a client, and Apple is a client, and other HP is a client, because they can see that they're using the same tools that they're used to. And what's their pitch? This business part of the legal matter we can do using state-of-the-art cloud-based data center that's in real time connected to you as a client. We can reduce your legal costs of the business side 50%. 50%. And they are literally pitching at 50% compared to all the other top law firms. But then they step over here and they say, but also you're going to need legal advice, and we're not discounting that at all. What do the clients focus on? The 50% discount on the business services. Thomson Reuters talked about this new virtual law firm that's emerging. It even popped up in The Economist magazine, and 9,000 CEOs that subscribe to The Economist magazine, hundreds of them were discussing this article. Remember that song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover? Now it's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lawyer. And they were talking about emerging business models like Clearspire, and maybe people are looking. 800 comments on this article of what's happening in Clearspire. They went to the West Coast. They're building up in Silicon Valley now. They said they're going to need another 200 lawyers there, and they're about to come to Sydney. Who's going to join them? Who's worried about them? Who's too worried to put their hand up? Let's talk about two areas you can't ignore. You can't ignore. How are we going on time, Madonna? Good. Two areas you can't ignore. Turn to your learning partner next to you and ask them this question. What's your mobile policy? What's your mobile strategy? What's your mobile policy at your firm? I'll give you 30 seconds to discuss that. What's your mobile? Do you have a mobile strategy? Do you have one of those? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. You know your phone, your tablet, if you've got one of these new iPhone 5S's, or you have one of the new Samsung Galaxy 4s, if you have one of those, your mobile device has significantly more power than put a man on the moon in 1969. How much more power does the Samsung 4 or the iPhone 5S? What kind of power does it have compared to NASA in 1969? 10,000 times. Yet you guys are texting, playing Angry Birds, and updating your Facebook profiles. We know, because I work with the telecommunication carriers, and we don't know about what you're doing specifically. Only the NSA knows that. But the carriers know what you're doing, and you're playing Words with Friends and Angry Birds and updating your Facebook profiles. You're not doing voice minutes anymore. Voice minutes are plummeting. Text and instant messaging is going through the roof. So how big is mobile today? It's too big to ignore. It has changed the world forever. It's the fastest growing technology in the history of mankind. And I will prove this to you by giving you some interesting statistics. How many people in the world today? It was in the video. 7 billion people in the world today, but that video was 11 months old, and we've sold a few extra mobile devices in between time. So how many of those 7 billion people, how many of them have a mobile phone now? 6 billion, because we sold an extra billion in the last 11 months. 1 billion handsets. And the two companies, Samsung and Apple, get 99% of all the profit out of this one market. All the others split the 1 penny. I don't know if you heard about BlackBerry, but they've got 5 weeks worth of cash left. Anybody still got BlackBerries? They're about to switch those off. Yeah, really? Oh, better be talking to your carrier, yeah. But don't worry, there's a huge upgrade path. There's a huge upside for you, because in the developed world, the developing world, they're basically still on 2G. Remember that in Australia, where you got the little E or edge, right? So they're still on 2G. They want to come into this 3G, 4G world, but their networks don't support it yet. But they'll never build computer networks. They won't install copper lines. They're going straight to wireless. And for the most of the world, their first and only computing device will be a mobile, tablet, or phone. They won't do laptops. They won't do desktop computers. So how would you like to be Samsung or Apple, knowing you're going to get 99% of all the profit and all those upgrades in the next 3 years? Soon, every person on the planet will have access to a mobile from the age of mobile device, from the age of 0 all the way up to 100 plus. So as a product manager, we used to do these charts to prove to our bosses that we could sell future products based on past results, which is a really bad way of planning. But we had to do it. And here's a chart from Morgan Stanley that showed the rise of the Internet 1.0. Throw your mind back. Can you throw your mind back to 1994? The year that the Internet went commercial here in Australia. You probably got yourself a dial-up connection with Aussie Mail. Your geeky friend said, go down to Dick Smith's Electronics, get yourself a dial-up modem and a serial cable, and you'll need to configure a PPP dial-up connection, and you'll need a web browser, but don't download it over the internet, because no one would ever download anything more that's like 20 megabytes. You would never download that over a dial-up connection, so they told you to go to the newsagent, get a magazine with a CD-ROM on the front that had the Netscape web browser. So you remember that? This says desktop internet, started in December of 1994. You could get Netscape, and this shows in this blue line the uptake. If we take all the start dates back to 0, and we compare them, even though they started at different times, we can see the uptake as a comparison. That blue line shows that after 20 quarters, that there were about 50 million and a quarter downloads of Netscape. So let's call that Web 1.0. Do you remember 1994? Now, I know you're all looking at another colored line. What colored line are you looking at? You're looking at the green line. And that green line says, according to Morgan Stanley, that Apple owned mobile internet for the first 2.5 years. Their iPhone, their iPod Touch, and iPad dominated mobile devices online. At about this time, I was doing some work for Google, and they said, hey, Rispin, you used to work for Apple, right? I said, yes, you know that. That's why I'm here. They said, yes, we knew that. Well, we're going to tell you something really surprising. Of all the mobile devices, they said at this time, that are hitting any of the Google properties globally, 98% of them are Apple devices. And we cannot allow Apple to define our future. So we've just bought this company called Android, and we're going to give the operating system away for free. We don't want to be in the hardware business, so we're going to give it to manufacturers. They can make really cheap handsets to compete with Apple. And that was called Android, and that's what powers the Samsung Galaxy. So that's pretty impressive, right? 120 million, that says, 120 million in a quarter, significantly higher than we ever did in Web 1.0. This mobile internet, it's going to be a big thing. And then Google comes along, and look what happened the next quarter. 380 million in a quarter. How do you ship that many? Well, you get a chief executive who's an expert in global supply chain, and his name's Tim Cook. This is his expertise. This is how he helped Apple Computer make more profit even after Steve is gone than ever before. So more iPhones and be able to deliver 9 million handsets in 48 hours globally. How do you do that? Only by being a global supply chain expert. Look what happened next quarter. 468 million. Let's just make it a rounding error. Let's just round it up to 500 million handsets in a quarter. And I show this to people, and they go, that can't be true, that can't be true, that can't be true, because it rocks their world. And they said, that can't possibly be true. And I go, oh, well, 450 of that were the new subscribers that we added in China. You know, the iPhone only recently went on the major carrier, but there were hundreds of thousands of iPhones illegally on the carriers. Only the new iPhone 5C and S are legally on the chief carrier in China. This helps Apple. It helps Android. There are 250 different Android handsets and tablets now, and you can buy them for as low as $10 throughout Asia. So hand up if you guys still have PCs in your office. Yeah, NAB doesn't anymore. They just issued 7,000 iPads to their staff, and they said, don't come to the office anymore. That's what you guys do, right? Because the PC is dead. This according to Tech News. I mean, just look at the results. I don't have last quarter. It's actually down a little bit more, down 15%. The lowest sales we've had in the PC market since 1994 when we had our peak sales. So it is the year of the tablet. One tablet, the Apple iPad mini, outsold all PCs combined, one SKU versus hundreds of SKUs, one device. And it helps when you get 7,000 employees walk in the front door of the Sydney Apple Store and say, we need 7,000 iPads, 7,000 iPhones, and talk to our IT people about those MacBook Air things. Mobile is growing faster than any technology before. It is an order of magnitude bigger than any technology ever was. If you go through history, you can see we sold millions of mainframes, tens of millions of microcomputers, hundreds of millions of PCs. Then they got off the local area network and they connected to the internet, and we had billions of people, 1 billion people on Facebook alone. Now we're talking about tens of billions of devices, and people say, how is that possible? We've only got 7 billion people in the world. Let me prove it to you. Let's just do a survey of the room. Just do a survey of the room. Put your hand up if you have more than 10 mobile internet devices in your household. More than 10? More than 11? More than 12? More than 13? More than 14? 14? 14. I think you won. Congratulations. Oh, 5 children. Yeah, with average of 3 devices each, right? Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. This is why it's going to be bigger, but it's not just the devices. It's mobile sensors, remote sensors that you can connect to the Internet of Things, so you can do sensing in your client. For instance, how many of you are offering in your virtual law center a fill out yourself social media policy for your business clients? Now, I know not all of you do business law, but how many of your business clients need a social media policy? All of them. How many have them? Just a small idea here. Maybe you could connect to their social networks. So you say, I'll install a monitoring program, and I'll tell you when your employees are doing things they shouldn't do. Would you like that, Chief Executive? I was talking to the CIO of BHP. He said, we got a big problem in social media, Craig. They go on LinkedIn, our employees up in Canada, in the drilling, mining facility they have up near Yellowknife. And they go on LinkedIn, they post in their peer group, I've got this project on site and it's not going well, what advice do you have? And they get advice from their competitors in this group. I mean, think about it, right? You've got a peer group and you're getting advice from your peers. But the CIO figured out that there was a campaign at Rio Tinto to give them bad advice. But because it's a trusted peer group, they were accepting it. Sounds to me like they needed a social media policy. It's the Internet of Things that we're moving to. And lastly, I would like to inform you that if you don't have a data scientist for a year from now, your clients are going to be asking you why not. They're dealing with overwhelming data, and it's directly linked to commerce, discovery, information, visualization. Love the visualization. This is big data. And I was just talking to a group of chief executives yesterday. They're saying, we've got overwhelming terabytes worth of data, Craig. I said, oh, really? What's your business? He said, I'm in charge of all the cash registers at Woolies. Terabytes worth of data, and we don't know what to do with it. I said, do you have a data scientist over there? Data scientist? Well, let me introduce you to the peak body. Maybe you need an info strategist. Let me introduce you to my friend David McCandless. He could update you on this area. He's a journalist and data scientist that takes big, massive data sets and presents them in beautiful infographics. His website is informationisbeautiful.net, and many of my legal clients buy his coffee table book, which is this massive book with the visualizations, and leave it in their waiting room, in their lobby. And clients come in and they flick through it and they go, oh, isn't that fantastic? Oh, if you like that, you should speak to our data scientist, they say. You have one of those? What value could they provide you? What value do they provide to clients? Well, here's a funny one that I'm sure you know about this one. He took a big data set and it displayed something really surprising around the year. It showed that it was pretty high in Valentine's Day. It was really big around spring break. You know, that's like Schoolies Week in America. Mondays were particularly bad. Summer holidays, it went up again. 2 weeks before winter holidays, you know, Northern Hemisphere, was the peak. And on Christmas Day, it was the lowest for the year. They said it was too cruel. So what is this a chart of? It's not flu. It's not a flu chart, no. What do you think it is? Marriage breakdown? Very similar. Well, we call it the Facebook breakup chart. So they took millions of data points of when people changed their status from hooked up to no longer connected to married to no longer. And you can see what the trends are. And this is valuable to you. For instance, anybody in a firm involved in divorce? Do you know Facebook will send you, they can alert you as soon as somebody changed their status to separated? Did you know you subscribe to that? Yeah. But this can be used for good or for evil. And sometimes data scientists don't think about the human part of this. You know, Target hired a data scientist, and he figured out that women bought certain products just when they fall pregnant or just prior to being pregnant. So he triggered the baby products catalog to go to women's homes that were Target customers that used the card. Oh, they're buying this new type of hand lotion with extra vitamin E or whatever it might be, and they trigger the baby products because if they can get them to be brand loyal at this point, they've got them for the next 5 to 7 years. Unfortunately, they triggered a catalog to go to this young 16-year-old girl, and her father was really cross. Hey, why are you sending baby products to my daughter? She shouldn't have a baby now. And the data scientist said, well, according to our research, she's pregnant. Oh, you what? You... And he turned to his 16-year-old daughter and said, is this true? And she said, yes, Dad. Then it went global. It was on Fox News. It was on CNN. It was all over Twitter. Millions of people talking about it. You can use big data for good, or you can use it for evil. How will you help your clients? These are beautiful visualizations around the effectiveness of natural products going out of pharmacies. The size of the bubble is how many searches you can find on Google. And as the bubble goes towards the top, we have really good science, double-blind trials. We've got great evidence towards the top. So we know that folic acid, really, really good. Lots of evidence and lots of people talking about that. But as you go down the chart, you've got conflicting. Here's the worth it line. Anything below the worth it line, it might not be worth it. And I still have people on LinkedIn, they connect to me. I'd like to connect to you. I have a great business opportunity for you. Goji berries. Really? Do you have any evidence around that? Or I remember in the 1980s, my doctor told me to get ginkgo biloba. There is no evidence that this helps you for your memory. No evidence. So big data is meeting big law. And if you go to law.com and put in big data, you'll find this article that reflected on the year 2012, and this is where it really started to boom in America, of how this big data would influence big law. And you need a data scientist to play into this game. It's all based on the research of this journalist, writer. The New York Times wrote, James Suwecki wrote The Wisdom of Crowds. And he said, if you have enough data, you can get really good value. So will this mean that you could, for instance, predict how the US Supreme Court would vote on a matter? So they took 74,000 law students and they said, do you think they're going to affirm that matter? Do you think they're going to reverse it? Do you think they're going to recuse it? And they got enough legal students to bet on this virtual, it's like a fantasy sports team, but it's fantasy SCOTUS. And guess what? they were 82% right on their prediction because they have enough data sets. So will this mean in the future, these are all the people that were right, that you'll have to have big data in your organization? Absolutely. And if you want to know more about this, there was an entire conference dedicated at Georgetown Law Library. Big data, big challenges for law and legal information. I'm running out of time, so I can't show you that, but I have a Meet the Expert coming up and a workshop. We can talk more about this in general, but wouldn't it be great if you had a tool that could do this? You log into your system, a client asks you, can I win this matter, and how much is it going to cost? Would you like to answer that accurately? Watch this video. It's 30 seconds long. This is a firm that does this by scanning the invoices of, let me just see here, $40 billion worth of legal spend, over close to 400 man-hours of legal services, and they figure out whether you are successful or not and what you're billing. Have a look at this. It's all around big data. Run out of time. I'll have to leave it there. I'd love to continue the conversation with you. I think we've got time for maybe a question or two. Madonna? Yeah, that'd be great. All right. And there are mics around, aren't there? There are.
First of all, please put your hands together for Craig. Just wonderful, Craig.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm going home to throw out the evening primrose oil, which was right down the bottom of that evidence list. And I'm just not getting on any scales anywhere in case there's a Wi-Fi one that just broadcasts your weight. But look, we do have time for a couple of questions, and I would really like to encourage that. So who's going to be the brave person this morning and ask the first question? Thank you, sir. Would you just stand up and walk down to that microphone so we can all hear the question? And if anyone else would like to, there's a microphone there. We could get through a couple. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. John Pedrick from Adelaide. Craig, very early on you mentioned the sort of the internet as an online service for healthcare and so on. Now, what do we do about the other side of the coin? In Australia and probably other places, immunisation rates are dropping dramatically because people are getting on the internet and getting all this unbelievably misleading, incorrect, totally non-scientific based information saying don't immunise your kid. And people now, their own children are at risk because other children in their childcare centre are not being immunised.
Yes.
And now that's happening in a lot of other spheres as well. And
I know exactly what you're talking about. This comes up all the time.
What do we do?
If I was advising the industry groups that were responsible for this, I'd tell them two things. One, produce a new infographic every week on this. Get the big data, combat bias with data. with data. And second of all, take all your scientists and send them to communication school or marketing school, or at least get them on the Gruen transfer or something, because they can't make an argument, can they? Because that's not what they've been trained to do. And I have to tell you, I do work with a lot of scientists, doctors, and they're considering that now, that they need to up their communication skills because they can't communicate with a mass market. They can only communicate to their peers. It doesn't sound like any industry that I know about. Just saying.
You talk about data scientists being one new job in this area. Yeah. Are there other new positions or jobs that law firms should be considering in the next few years to capitalise on what you've been talking about this morning?
Sure. So it's a bit like megatrends, where they said that technology was going to invade our lives and therefore we wanted service. So as we see the clients insisting that the business side of legal practice, the project management and document control and e-discovery, that's got to go down in price. It seems if they're willing to pay more for advocacy, for advice. And so the firms that I see that are innovative and growing are simultaneously reducing their costs and raising their advocacy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Have we got another question from the floor? Thank you, sir.
G'day, Craig.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. I'm selling a product to lawyers, and the interesting thing is when you go to a firm, they all sort of are inward-looking, saying, we are developing these products ourselves, or we use these products. The word collaborative has been used a lot here. So how, when there are so many products out there that you've mentioned there that a law firm can use, how can law firms sort of think a bit more collaboratively, not to say, I'm using all of this for my advantage. In fact, one of the big law firms said to me, oh, it's just the bottom line. It's always the bottom line, no collaboration. So in terms of all the practice managers here looking at what's out there, what can we do to actually think more collaboratively and actually share programs or act in a way that is for the better of the profession rather than ourselves?
You know, I see this in every industry that I'm in, but in the legal area, it's particularly challenging. It's a slightly more challenging in the police services. I got a call from the New South Wales Police Futurists Association. I know you're laughing, but they exist. You can Google them. And they said the biggest problem that we have is we're on this interforce counterterrorism group, and we've all been, for our entire history about keeping secrets, keeping information away from people. And now in this new world, we have to collaborate and share information. And the guys from the New South Wales Police Futurists Association said, so we really were inspired by this conference called TED. You know the TED conference? Where they're talking about new ways to collaborate, new business models, big thinkers. And then we saw that there was a spin-off conference called TED Med. And then we decided to create sort of our own TED conference, but it was around TED Terror. Yeah, TED Terror. It doesn't really roll off the tongue the same way. But they get together people who have got new business models, have built businesses collaboratively, inter-firm, which I think is really, really interesting what's happening there. And I have to say, I'm part of a collaborative group, a group of futurists and innovators, and we now have much larger clients, national scale contracts, even though if people looked at us, they'd say, we're competitors. But we're not. We're actually collaborators. Aren't we, Shelley? People are starting to wake up to this new way of working. If I had to give you one specific piece of advice, share all these emerging models and give them proof that it's working. Yeah, maybe produce an infographic or a viral video.
Thank you, Craig. I think we might draw a line there. We're going to do the app in just a moment, but could you please put your hands together for Future Trends Group's Craig Rispin? Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.